Good afternoon. This is the last panel of the day, the last panel of a very interesting discussion that started yesterday. And if we were to somehow try to summarize what we've heard, I guess that we've seen the Mediterranean diet from several different angles, as food, as medicine, as ritual, as a way to connect with one another. And what we intend to do now is to try to pull all these threads together. Granted, we are left with little time, far less time than we had expected, so we're going to do our best in whatever time is left. But I think we should agree that food, Mediterranean cuisine, is far more than what is on our plate and its ingredients. It's a way of getting together, of living together, of finding ways to express ourselves through taste, and also a way of reinventing a more mindful way of living. And I have with me three amazing ladies from three different countries, from Spain, from Italy, and from Singapore. And their credentials and their titles are so long and so complicated for me that you will allow me to read them and ask each one of them for a brief presentation. I think we're going to omit the questions as we will be running out of time. So right next to me from Spain, Ms. Maria José San Román, the gastronomic director of Monastrell Restaurant and CEO of the Maria José San Román Group, and Spain's ambassador of the Mediterranean diet. We will have the chance to taste some of your cooking later today. And I would like to start with you and ask for your initial comments, please.
I'm always learning. My life story is about learning, always learning. I'm blessed because you all teaching me. I'm always in touch with scientists and with people that always knows more than me about any subject. And that makes me I have a reflection that I need to spread all this knowledge through everybody I know as much as I can. And as far as I know, chefs, we became like rock stars now. And I want to be a rock star to help the world to be better in nutrition fats. And I think we have the knowledge, but the knowledge cannot be kept here. It has to be sprinkled all over the world. We do the work in the restaurants. I do the work. So I have to read a little bit. But I think chefs, we, as ambassadors of the change, our influence extends far beyond the kitchen. Through every dish, we educate, we inspire, we reconnect people with Mediterranean diet timeless value. That is the way I think. Our dual responsibility is health, sustainability, inspiring healthier, more sustainable food choices through conscious cooking and ingredients selection, and the cultural heritage, protecting and transmitting the foundations of Mediterranean gastronomy, our shared legacy. The Iberian Peninsula, birthplace of gastronomic fusion, the first documented culinary fusion in history, and maybe the only one, is a heritage we must honor and transmit. The story of saffron, remembering our foundation. I've been working on saffron for 2 decades, sharing knowledge about saffron, and many people still don't know its true story. That makes me think not merely a coloring agent, is our real goal exists before Asian and Latin American discovery. One and the only spice stone alongside aromatic herbs in our ancient world. We must revisit these foundations every decade, just as we do with classical music, art. The basics must always be there. how can we help institutionalizing the knowledge through touch in college as fundament as the alphabet and mathematics, a basic pillar of education. Chef's duty, ensuring transmission of Mediterranean culinary heritage to future generations. And cultural identity, Greeks, Spanish, Italians, Portuguese, united in protection of our shared cradle of cuisine. Custodians of a cultural heritage. In our globalized world, chefs are keepers of ingredients, techniques, and tradition that define the Mediterranean identity. The 16th century fusion, Spain and Portuguese explorers brought east to west, creating the world's first major culinary exchange. Pre-Columbian landscapes are olive oil and saffron, already rooted in our heritage before the Great Exchange. The Great Convergence brought from America Latina, from Asia, and from Africa, and this nuclear fusion ignited the Mediterranean spirit, a cuisine born from connection and diversity. Then innovation with roots. Tradition, we have to honor our heritage and foundational ingredients, and we have to evolution combining sustainability, science, and responsible innovation. Progress, elevating quality, nutrition, and value with preserving essence. The olive oil revolution, as an example, is a 20 years quality transformation. I'm talking about Spain. 20 years ago, mediocre quality olive oil production, while now Spain produces the world's best, finest extra virgin olive oil. This is a fact. So we have to keep on researching to become better. And the catalysis is that research and technology, collaboration, and putting together chefs, producers, and scientists. Focus on quality and innovation. Our responsibility is moving forward through university partnerships, translation, research in nutrition, sustainability, and innovation directly into the kitchen. Sole ingredients, working with olive oil, saffron, rice, vinegar, honoring the Mediterranean essence. With a global inspiration, sharing knowledge across borders, helping the Mediterranean model inspire the world. Innovation with roots doesn't break tradition, is honor and carries it forward. Well, that was my presentation. Do I have another 2 minutes? Santi? No. Okay, because I don't want to forget to say the things that I said. Don't worry, it's just short. But I know, chefs, we can make it. We have to get out of these rooms. We have to go and sprinkle the world. I deeply believe, we all believe, we are going to be better if we do the rules of the Mediterranean diet. Why don't we go here like apostles to cover the world? I know we can make it. It's just talking to politics. They have to teach in the schools. That is mathematics. That is alphabet. This is the basics. Nutrition is so important. We don't want to live with medicines. We want to be the medicine of, the food has to be the medicine. I've been in the kitchen for 50 years, and I really feel very strong because I know I'm working with the best products, the best, it's truth. I'm lucky I met you so many years ago, Rosa and Struck. You teach me so many things, and I tell all this to all my clients. And as you can see, I talk, and I talk in many places, and I'm always talking about this. So thank you for teaching, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, my voice works. I'm very glad to be here, also because I was with you at the starting point of the Tor Ibera Mediterranean Center in Barcelona, so it's good to find you here now in Greece. So yes, I'm the founder of the Future Food Institute, but then back in 2020 I bumped into the emblematic community of Mediterranean diet of Italy, Pollica. I know that professor came to visit us also 2 years ago. So bumping into Pollica, I discovered that food system transformation and climate change and all of the things we are hearing about, the Sustainable Development Goals, were strictly interconnected with Mediterranean diet. And then I suddenly discovered that Mediterranean diet, first of all, is not an Italian thing, is not a Greek thing, is a shared heritage, and is the celebration of cultural and biodiversity. And this is, I think, an incredible source of wealth for all of us. And we have to consider that as something that we need to unleash and celebrate. Much more if we think about what are our roots. When I bumped into Pollica, I discovered that this is something that belongs to our history. Of course, we're talking about places like Greece, like Spain, like Cyprus, like all the emblematic communities that share an incredible history. We needed the American scientists that were able to codify Mediterranean diet, but we also discover that this is not just a set of rules, but is a way of approaching life and development. And if we consider that, and we see how much in these territories mayors were able to implement policies, rural development goals, and any kind of framework that can help us to design better tourism and better exploitation or relationship with our territories, I think that this is even more interesting. Then back in 2010, Mediterranean diet became a World Heritage. We are celebrating 15 years this year. And finally, we cross our finger, probably we're going to have also the resolution at the United Nations to finally have the World Day of Mediterranean Diet. And in Pollica, of course, with the Center of Mediterranean Diet Studies and the museum, we have been working on that. But basically, what happened is that we started considering this territory as an incredible living lab that could host still scientists and can keep going, connecting the dots. So if you see, this is kind of a timeline that is arriving to the last sentence. You have been talking a lot about longevity, and I want to share with you this little video, because this is one of the tons of projects that in our living labs are taking place. This is a project that is ending now. We are trying to create the algorithm for longevity, where we are measuring longevity in youth between 18 and 25 years old, and many other parameters. And basically, we are connecting the environmental parameters, the quality of food, but also the impact on human health. This is what is happening every single day in Pollica, where we are working with the community, with fishermen, with chefs, with grandmas and grandpas, hosting youth from all around the world, but also using our place to codify something that we need to bring back in our major cities. And this is something that probably we have been missing. And where chefs and school meals and markets can play an incredible critical role. So we're very, keen to connect the dots within the entire network of the Mediterranean diet emblematic communities, and even further beyond that. This is just one of the more than 90 projects that we have been running. And I want to end with this other initiative. I don't know if it's starting. We are hosting Gastro Diplomacy Bootcamp. I'm very honored last year to have with us also some students from the Culinary Institute of America. We strongly believe that food is a tool for diplomacy. Mediterranean diet it is as well. And we need to foster the coalition between generations. This is just an example of what is happening. We need to bring students to meet the farmers, to meet the producers, to enter in the kitchen. You were talking about becoming ambassadors. is not only the fact of becoming ambassador, but we need to start to learn the language of the young generations. And we are doing this. I jumped into the next video because we don't have time. And what we're doing is not only hosting students, but dealing and working with creators, digital creators. So our Living Lab became a camp for creators. So we are organizing Creators Camp, where we are inviting influencers, digital media experts that are talking through TikTok and any other device to young generations. Because if you see the data also in Italy from our national health system, the adoption of Mediterranean diet is decreasing every year. Because at the end of the game, families come back at home at dinner and there is Deliveroo and everyone can order the food they want. People is not cooking anymore. We're missing the time around the kitchen, not only around the table, but the kitchen cooking together. And this is an important pillar of Mediterranean diet, convivium. So we are strongly advocating to bring back that, and we are involving youth and young creators that are able to talk with different kind of tools in a different way, with Instagram Reels or whatever, and they are inspiring their colleagues. This is happening. We were hosting this 50 creators last year. They made a massive impact with millions of followers, and we didn't know that for them was such a cool thing. So we discovered that for them was a very cool thing, Mediterranean diet, not something just for elderly people. So it's an invitation for all of us also to adopt new tools and start to talk and engage young generations. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. So good afternoon, everyone. It's really a great pleasure of being a part of this fantastic conference. So I did my homework. I was assigned to talk about, to comment about Mediterranean diet and women's health, implication for public health, and applications of principles of Mediterranean diet in a different culture. So I will start with a very brief comment on Mediterranean diet and women's health. So, first, why women's health? So I would say women's health is critical not just for women themselves, but also for the future generations and for the family. Also, as we mentioned many times during this conference, that women cooked, prepare food for the family, and provide care for the family. When I heard a lot about like mom cook. So I feel, so I'm sure the majority of you would agree with me that, so healthy, happy women, healthy, happy family, and healthy, happy society. So biologically, so several key characteristics of Mediterranean diet offer protective effects among women. So for example, for cardiometabolic disorders, as have been discussed repeatedly in the conference. And we all know that cardiovascular disease remains the #1 killer for women. And also for women's specific health conditions, such as pregnancy health and reproductive health. So we all outcomes of pregnancy, and pregnancy health can have lifelong health implications for both women and the fetus. So however, unfortunately, so mainstream of Mediterranean diet related research seems lacking sufficient efforts on these female-specific phenotypes and health outcomes, especially at the population health level. So in general, I would call more research on Mediterranean diet, especially for women of reproductive age. So next, I'm going to show some quick existing data. So emerging data, including those from ours, found that Mediterranean diet before and during pregnancy was related to lower risk of major pregnancy complications like gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, gestational hypertension, preterm births. So in the total, this accounts for almost 30% of pregnancies. So these are our data based on a multiracial cohort in the US. And in addition, we found that Mediterranean diet can even alleviate potential harmful impact of environmental chemicals. For example, endocrine disruptors, those you can find from plastic package and food containers. So recently, we also did a systematic review on all the major data on Mediterranean diet and the female reproductive health outcomes over lifespan. So as you can see from the summary of this slide, so compared with other health outcomes, you can see much less data available for female reproductive health related outcomes. And we observed that this study was predominantly in Caucasian populations. In the interest of time, just show some results. So in the meta-analysis, we found that Mediterranean diet may potentially improve fertility by shortening time to pregnancy during pregnancy. And Mediterranean diet can potentially lower risks for common pregnancy complications, as I mentioned earlier. Mediterranean diet may also potentially benefit other female reproductive outcomes, such as puberty development and the relief of menopause symptoms. So taken together, all these indicate potential important role of Mediterranean diet in improving women's health over lifespan. So this is critical, especially given the reduced fertility rate worldwide. Also, I don't know whether you're familiar with the term of feminizing aging. So like in the aging society, like women live longer, but at the end, there will be more women in the aging population. So certainly we need more high quality studies, especially to reproductive health outcomes. So what's next? To me, the most important is implementation. So how to implement it into practice and to local populations? This is perhaps the most challenging part. And this certainly requires multidisciplinary and joint efforts. So inspired by these observations and considering the lack of intervention studies on Mediterranean diet and women's health in Asian population, so we initiated Asian-inspired Mediterranean diet early this year. We call it A+ meal trial. And briefly, aims of the study are to examine its impacts on cardiometabolic, reproductive, and gut health among women and reproductive age. And particularly in this trial, we followed Mediterranean diet principle and also especially the nutrient composition and food source recommendation, but using mainly local Asian and food and ingredients. So more than 75% of food and ingredients from local. So I think I don't have much time. So just want to point out, because overall is a signature for Mediterranean diet, but in Asian market, especially in Singapore, it's still very expensive, not readily available for a general population. So in our trial, we half of the cooking oil we use olive oil, and half we try to use local oil. So far, we have completed baseline visit for more than 100 women, and the accessibility of the meal we prepare pretty good. So I think it's just interest of time. I'm probably going to stop. So just to wrap up, so I would like to say Mediterranean diet is potentially important for women's health, but we need more evidence-based data. And think about, even from the business perspective, so some recent data released from the World Economic Forum that, so closing the data gaps for women's health, it represents actually $1 trillion business. So I hope you are in the audience who consider more efforts and even investment for research for Mediterranean diet and women's health. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take questions.